I would love to encourage Catholic men that we can do marriage better because we have the benefit of sacramental grace. So we have just a wonderful opportunity to be a good witness to friends and neighbors and others out there that our faith can make a difference. And it can make a difference not only in our own conversion, but in our marriage, and hopefully just do a little bit better than the norm by the grace of God.
So you're the CFO of the Diocese of Columbus, on the board of Our Sunday Visitor, treasurer of the Coming Home Network, president of St. Gabriel Catholic Radio, past president of Columbus chapter of Legatus. You have 8 children, 9 grandchildren. How do you find time for all that?
I don't do everything at the same time. Well, and you left out a part, which is married to my super cute wife now for almost 36 years. So we're still in the honeymoon phase. That's the best part of all.
Wow, you're blessed.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a lot to there's a lot to cover here. I'd be curious, what does CFO of a diocese entail?
Well, I've only been there for a couple months, so I'm still learning the answer to that question. But the Columbus Diocese is a very vibrant diocese. We have a wonderful bishop, Bishop Earl Fernandez, who is providing tremendous leadership, and I just love the guy. He's a faithful, competent, super smart bishop, and it's really carrying out his vision and making sure that we're essentially achieving his goals. And his goals include things like evangelization and vocations and service to the poor, education, things like that. It's been a learning process, but so far it's going very well, and there are a lot of good people working for this diocese.
You were the CFO of a marketing company. How do those two roles compare?
It's different. It's very different because in the marketing, the digital marketing company, I was the EVP and CFO, and so I had lots of different responsibilities, including operations and finance and HR and other areas like that. But in many ways, Johannes, it's the same. It's all about people more than anything else. Of course, it's about financial stewardship and lots of things like that. But with the digital marketing company, it was, building something in an entrepreneurial environment. We had a little under 400 employees, and we sold it last year. And jumping into the diocese, in some ways, this is an organization that pre-existed me for a long time and is going to, certainly exist for a long time after I'm gone. So there's a stewardship responsibility that's just very different. But a lot of the people dynamics and the fiscal stewardship and, a lot of the principles are the same.
I have a vague concern that dioceses and the church in general may not be run well financially. Again, it's vague. I don't have details on it, but can you speak to that at all and what it takes to make it run financially successfully?
Sure. I spoke to a guy who had been the CFO of the Archdiocese of Chicago for quite some time. And he told me before I sort of got up and running that dioceses are always resource challenged. And that's just kind of the way that they always are. And if you think about it, one of the challenges is that they have to have a certain amount of facilities infrastructure. And of course, those things need to be refreshed or rebuilt or, and certainly kept in good repair and everything over the course of time. So there's sort of a built-in, amount that you need to always be able to keep the lights on. And I think it's just an ongoing challenge, and different dioceses, as I understand it, approach it in different ways. But ultimately, it's about stewardship, and it's about trying to make sure that people are being faithful, to not only where the church is headed, but, being good stewards of the money that the faithful donate so generously.
Do you have a sense for why commentators are saying Pope Leo has a challenge ahead of him for organizing the Vatican finances?
Oh, well, yeah, I can't even begin to appreciate the depth of some of the issues there. I've certainly heard that there are some big ones that they face, underfunded pensions and things like that. Those are big issues. So hopefully, I'm very hopeful that he can surround himself with good, competent people who are also faithful, who can be good stewards and propose what may have to be very difficult solutions to fix.
Okay, well, getting to a much smaller circumscription, the domestic church,
Sure.
you've been successfully married and you recently wrote a book on marriage renewal. What can we learn from that?
Yeah, so it's called Honor Thy Wife. And this is my third book. I actually took a few months off after we sold our company last year and finished this book and I was really happy about how it went because my primary audience and the one that I always kept in mind when I was writing it was that I have 5 boys
Hmm.
and 4 of them are married and 1 of them is engaged. And it's just, I try to pack all of sort of the love and the the experience and the humility that's required to have a successful marriage into this book and share some of my experiences along the journey. And frankly, a lot of it was mistakes that I've made because over the course of 36 years, I've made a lot of mistakes. So it was very fertile ground from which to pull stories. And some of them are funny and some of them are very difficult sorts of experiences that I went through. Like, the beginning of the book, I tell a story about how I had gone to a Christmas party with the CPA firm that I had started with out of college with my wife. And, we got married when we were very young. And so I was immature and sort of stupid in many ways. And I remember telling a couple jokes at this Christmas party in a small group at my wife's expense.
Ooh, ouch.
And a friend who was also a senior manager in my CPA firm, literally grabbed my arm, pulled me aside, and said, "What do you think you're doing? This completely lacks class. You call yourself a Christian. What's the matter with you?" And I've rarely felt so humiliated in my entire life. But he was exactly right. And I came away from that experience really, again, thoroughly humiliated, but also with kind of this inner resolve that I needed to do better. And so thankfully that happened early in our marriage, but it's still one of those experiences that even when I retell that story, it hurts a little bit because I'm so crazy about my wife. A good friend of mine tells me that I married up. And he's completely right. My wife is just so fabulous and so fantastic, and she didn't deserve that. So I thought, you know what? This needs to be a book that I write that's an encouragement and a challenge to men to just try to be just a little bit better at being good husbands. And what I am convinced about is that even with just very humble and small efforts, that the Holy Spirit can sort of take that and cause those seeds to grow. And they can actually have generational ripple effects if we do them properly, because you just never know what's going to make a difference, whether it's either within our marriage to make it a little bit better, or our kids as they watch us striving to be better husbands, or maybe it's telling our wife that we're sorry in front of our kids.
Yeah.
And having that humility. Maybe it's as simple as just smiling, and giving her a bright greeting in the morning instead of how we feel, which is maybe quite the opposite of that. But just these little things that I think can really make a difference.
What's the most important thing that good husbands get wrong?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm
Thanks,
not sure
man.
that there's any one thing because I think we all have different strengths and weaknesses, right? So I remember early in marriage trying to love my wife the way that I wanted to be loved
Yeah.
and recognizing, that's not the game. The
Yeah.
game is really to try to understand her well enough to know how she wants to be loved
Exactly.
and then do that for her and try to become better. And that's taken a long time. I'm still working on it every day, but she's worth it. And even though we've been through a lot of hard times over 36 years, it's become richer and deeper and more rewarding along the way. And maybe not despite the hard times, but maybe partly because of them.
Ha! Well said. That is sound advice. Hey, I've been curious about Legatus. So you're the past president of the local chapter. What's that all about?
So Legatus is an international organization that it deals with business executives it was created by Tom Monahan, who was the founder of
Oh,
Domino's, who did a really nice job establishing this as a way that Catholic CEOs in particular could have mutual support because it can be lonely at the top of an organization. So there are a lot of very good people in Legatus, and I've certainly benefited from some wonderful relationships over, the better part of 20 years that I've been, sort of in and out over the course of time. But it's a really good format where they meet monthly with your spouse. So it's sort of an enforced date night. There's a speaker, but my favorite part of Legatus has always been the relationships and the other people who have been involved, because I've really established wonderful, long and deep relationships with good people within that organization. And in fact, the last individual that I went to work with at my former company was a fellow Legatus member. So it's been a tremendous blessing for me, and I highly recommend it.
okay. And on top of that, you're the president of the St. Gabriel Catholic Radio.
Oh yeah. So St. Gabriel Radio is an EWTN affiliate that's based in Columbus. And it's just a really terrific apostolate. There are a lot of good people in the organization's orbit, and it's really kind of a very effective communication tool of the diocese and the local church. But it covers most of Ohio. So yeah, once again, it's been a real privilege being associated with such an effective and a well-run apostolate.
What does the role of president entail?
So so I am the volunteer president of the board of directors.
Yeah.
So we have an executive director who runs things day to day, who's a very capable individual, a guy named Bill Messerly. And then we have a very small staff, and we have a volunteer board of 9 people who come to, just make sure that the organization is well run from a governance standpoint and oversight standpoint.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I've always been curious about what exactly a board of directors does.
Sure.
I
Well,
don't know
that's
if
a
you can.
different podcast, but yeah, there's a lot there, and really good governance is a key to a well-run and successful organization.
Sure. Are there any last words you want to share with us, Kevin?
Well, I would love to, in line with my latest book called Honor Thy Wife, I would love to encourage Catholic men that we can do marriage better because we have the benefit of sacramental grace. So we have just a wonderful opportunity to be a good witness to friends and neighbors and others out there that our faith can make a difference. And it can make a difference not only in our own conversion, but in our marriage, and hopefully just do a little bit better than the norm by the grace of God.
That was inspiring. Thank you. Hey, we'll put the link to that book in the show notes here. And if y'all have any questions for Kevin, feel free to comment on this episode and we can forward them along. Keep up the good work, Kevin. And I hope many people follow this message, because where the marriage, where the family goes, society goes.
Amen. Thank you, Johan.
Welcome.